This is Pete Feenstra in the heart of London, talking to the 5 times Grammy Award winning guitar player that is Mr. Steve Lukather. Great to have you here, Steve.
All right.
You spent the last year playing with everybody. Ringo Starr, G3, Toto.
It's been a busy year, yeah.
Unbelievable.
I really had an amazing year. It's hard.
I think finished.
You blink and it's already done, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, Silver Bell.
But
the reason happened, that was just New Year's Eve, you know?
Yeah. But the reason I mention that, so everybody knows obviously, but also the fact that in between times, 10 months I believe, you've recorded this brand new solo album.
I started last December, yeah.
So, which is called Transition, and it's out on January the 21st on Mascot Records, I think.
Yes.
Which is a good label, good guitar label to be on.
Oh, it's great, man. You know, we were all together last night. I mean, I'm friends.
Classic Rock Awards last night?
Yeah, that was good fun.
Did you win anything?
No, I wasn't up for anything. I ran into a lot of old friends, though.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm sure everybody was there.
Billy Gibbons, Jeff Beck,
wow.
And all the myriad of other
contemporaries.
Well, yeah, old friends, new friends. I was with Bernie Marsden and Adrian Vandenberg. I mean, it was, and there were some younger people here that I met. Some people. It's weird because you go on the road and you see people from back home, but you don't see them at home.
Out of context, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing here? You know?
But anyway, the point was, talking about the album, it's taken you something like 10 months. I mean, was that a problem in kind of refocusing when you came back to it time and time again?
Really, quite the opposite, because we started, you know, the way I did it was, from the moment we started writing, everything was kept, because they're all master takes. I never redid anything.
Alright, that's a good idea.
You know, it was interesting, so you keep the original spark, if you will, on the recording. But I also went out and did all these diverse, different kinds of projects, and I brought back with me the experience and the inspiration from the different awesome musicians that I was able to play with.
And you integrate that into the album?
Well, it subconsciously goes into the DNA and it comes out in weird ways.
And you
play. I mean, I didn't go out with, you know, G3 and come back and try to play like Joe Satriani or Steve Vai.
No.
But I was inspired to
different tones and stuff.
Well, just, you know, those guys are so good that you're just inspired to play the guitar in my own way, you know.
Yeah.
And then you go out with Ringo, and then you have all the, you know, Todd Rundgren and all the guys that were in that band.
What kind of stuff were you playing in that band then?
Well, everybody played, you know, their own, you know, a couple of their own hits, and then we did the Ringo stuff and the Beatles stuff that Ringo did, and then, you know, I was able to play Santana stuff with Greg Raleigh and you know, Richard Page, Mr. stuff, because I've known Richard since the 70s when Page's was out. I worked on the record. So I was like the best summer vacation of my life.
And what about the G3, the Down Under G3 tour, Australia, New Zealand, I think, was that?
That was a blast. I was a little nervous doing that one because, come on, I mean, it's Joe and Steve. But we're all such
Is that the first time you played with them on tour?
No, on tour.
Yeah.
No, we've all played together.
For
We've worked together over the last 25 years, you know, jamming here and there on projects or recordings. We did. Steve and I won a Grammy together with the Larry Carlton record.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it. The Japanese.
It was a worldwide release, but it was recorded live in Japan.
Yeah.
And that was like, now it's 11 years ago. I mean, it's like, where's the time?
But that was a club date, right? It wasn't a kind of arena thing. So
no, it wasn't arena. No, with Larry. No, that was like at the Blue Note, and recorded live at the Blue Note.
That brings its own
over the course of a few nights. We played a whole week there, you know. And that was a lot of fun. You know, that was another guitar lesson from a master. You know, Larry's so good.
So
an old friend, you know, and an old friend, you know. I'm just, you know, and like I said, I'm feeling better than ever, so I have all this energy to do all this stuff. You know?
So the new album, Transition, it's a kind of a big Vista album, big sounds, big production, but there's a lot of intricate detail in there as well. Was that how you approached that?
That's what I do, man. You know, I like big productions. You know, these people like minimalistic, punk records. I mean, that's great too. But that's not what I really.
Yeah.
Excel.
But you have thrown out a lot of the digital stuff that you were working with before.
Well, no, I mean, you know, I used the technology, but I used it in a positive way, not as an excuse for not being able to play or sing or anything like that. You know, what's great about it is you know, non-destructive editing and the amount of tracks you can have, or if you have all this plugins, you can try so many things. Because my guitar sound was just my Music Man guitar, a cable into a Ernie Ball volume pedal into the Bogner amp. Any effects and anything were done. 99%, you know, post-production.
Now tell everybody about the guests on there, and before you do, if I may ask you, did you bring these various guests in with specific tracks in mind? Is that how that works?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, that was the joy of doing it the way we wrote it. It's like we record it, and then I put a few guitar parts on, and they were keepers.
Yeah.
You know, the basic stuff, and then C.J. Vanston, my co-producer and co-writer, and engineer, and all that stuff, you know. we just did it at his studio, and he would put a bunch of keyboard stuff. I come in the next day and do, inspired by some lyrics, and maybe throw a little rough la la melody on it, and we'd throw that around a little bit, and then we'd work on it a little bit more, and then I go, it would be great on this tune, you know, be able to sit back and cast it like you would a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I use my live band, you know, Renee Jones, Eric Valentine, Steve Weingart are all over the record too, but I also, my son worked on it, co-wrote a track with us, Trev, you know, he's on Right the Wrong, and we sat in the room and we wrote all the lyrics and the melodies together, and he played on it, you know, and then Chad Smith played on that.
Wow, yeah.
So I thought, you know, you run into friends in the street, like in LA, you go, hey man, you want to play my record? Like, yeah, I want to play your record.
Was Richie like that?
Yeah, it was exactly like that.
So
you're at a restaurant somewhere, you see
So
something.
then you go out and have to plan it? And
No, man, I mean, there's a few people I thought I was going to go, especially with bass players. I had a lot of different bass players.
I noticed that,
Bass players and drummers.
Schlar was on there.
He's Sklar. I mean, Leland and I go back to when I was like, I met him when I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And
He was truly a legend.
And I got him to play a little mini bass solo, which is something he's never done.
Wow.
It's nothing too flashy.
Which track was that on?
Judgment Day.
Oh, okay.
After the guitar solo, there's a breakdown. There's a breakdown. There's a little bass.
Yeah.
And he was just sticking around. He goes, oh no, I don't want to do that. I said, it's great. No, I'm keeping it. I'm gonna write Lee Sklar bass solo because it's so unlike him. He hates bass solos. He likes it when other people do it, but he doesn't like to do it himself.
Yeah.
Not unlike Jeff Beccaro, who loved drum solos but would never play one himself.
So going back to the last album, which is kind of relevant, that was called All's Well That Ends Well, which had a sense of closure. But here we are now with Transition. Did you have more that you wanted to talk about?
Out of the darkness into the light, my friend.
Yeah.
You know, I was pretty beat down, man. I was at my lowest point in my whole life. I mean,
Before the previous album I'm talking about.
Yeah, All's Well was a really emotional album. I was breaking up my marriage. My mother died. Those friends of mine sick. People died. I mean, there's a lot of inner turmoil. Yeah. I had the band, the whole total thing fell apart, and I was coming out of that. In the process, I was reassessing my whole life. You know, I stopped drinking and smoking, and I decided I needed to get healthy because all my friends are getting sick. And you know, you come to that middle point in your life where you're going, like I had like 35 years of Saturday nights every night, and it catches up with you. I was unhealthy. I wasn't working to my full potential, and now I've got a few years away from that. You know, chunks of my hair were falling out and shit like that. I mean, now I came back. You know, because I'm. You know, I feel better. I'm training. You know, and I'm happy again.
But Transition is an extension of that. I mean, you're still looking into yourself for the songs.
Yeah.
You also, of course, you know, if I may say so, like lyrics weren't your strong point years ago. Now you're suddenly coming out with all these songs that are deep and meaningful.
Well, you know, I mean,
they are deep and meaningful. They're really good songs.
Thank you. I mean, I really consciously worked very hard, and that was the advantage of not having a Russian album in 2 months or something like that, because I could work on something and take it on the road. And when I idle time, I'd practice my guitar, or I would be writing lyrics and rewriting lyrics and rewriting them. And I have something to say. When you're young, you write about partying or whatever, you know, and I don't do that. And now I'm looking back at a really interesting life, and I think I appreciate my career, my life, and my health more than I ever have.
Yeah, no, that's
and I'm trying to be.
I think it comes through on the album, Steve. On both those albums, in fact. You know.
Thank you, man. I'm really working hard at it. I'm not just sitting around going, oh, let's do an album to get out there on the road.
No, but the most remarkable thing about this is the fact that, as we said at the beginning of the conversation, you've been so busy, and yet you've actually managed to put together a really coherent album.
Thank you, man. That's all these things.
But thinking about that, two particular tracks, Creep Hotel and
Creep Motel.
Creep Motel, I'm so sorry, I can't read.
Hotel, Motel. Motel's a cheesier, that's the reason why.
And the rest of the world, they're both kind of bluesy, both got a little bit of Steely Dan influence. Yeah, were they written at the same time? Or?
No, well, some of it was written over, you know, Creep Motel was like almost, the songs on the album were written almost the way they come across on the album.
Oh, I wondered about
that. You know, like I wrote Judgment Day was the first song, Creep Motel was the second song I wrote.
Well, Judgment Day is the kind of statement of the whole thing.
Really, we wrote in the track listing of the record, you know,
and you got the Charlie Chaplin thing at the end, Smile.
Yeah, that was for my mom. It's a sad song. You know?
That's a great tone you got on there.
Thanks. That was live take, one take.
Really?
Yeah, that was me and Steve Weingart just playing in a room together.
What led you to that song anyway? That's
my mom. She wrote beautiful melodies, and you know, it also has the message of like, it's one of the saddest songs ever written. And it's like, I used to be this clown, loud guy, party guy, and inside myself I was really just dying, miserable, sad. And that's the opening line, lyric of the song, which I didn't sing, but it's a smile when your heart is breaking. I mean, just that line, you imagine a guy with a clown suit on with a tear coming out of his eye, you know. That wasn't unlike how I was feeling. And, you know, I lost my mom in a kind of a tragic way, and You know, she loved all the beautiful melodies, so I wanted to do something to dedicate to her. That, and it just seemed to wind the album down perfectly to me.
And Right the World has got a kind of Beatles feel about it with the BVs and everything.
Oh yeah, well I wrote that. My son Trev and CJ wrote that one.
Wow.
And that was the big Pink Floyd kind of production thing on it. You know, the tribute to Dave Gilmour, one of my all-time heroes, and a buddy I haven't seen in a long time. Hi Dave. I'm probably never going to see this, but I'm saying hi anyway.
And so the Rest of the World kind of cast you as a balladeer. Was that
Well, that's kind of a funk. That's kind of like a very steely funk kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't write that song. CJ wrote that song. I was kind of at a loss. We were missing something on the record, vibe-wise and lyric-wise. I said, I need something a little more hopeful, a little happy to end this thing up, you know, chronologically from top to bottom. And I said, I want to do something a little more bluesy, maybe like a Cocker kind of a tune, because that was. We both. CJ produced stuff with Joe. Was with him. I've done a bunch of records with Joe. Love Joe. I'm not trying to sing like him, but there's some of those songs that had that kind of vibe, almost gospel blues.
Yeah.
And I could play a little bit and sing over, show the more R&B side. And he says, I got this tune, and he played it for me. I said, great tune, but how's it going to fit on the record? So from a production standpoint, we tore it down, and I kept trying to make it weirder and like add things, even though it's a happy chord changes. Major chords are hard to deal with because they're a little too happy. Yeah. But and to make them funky, and so Nathan East played on that, and my drummer Eric did a great Bernard Purdy, Jeff McCarroll kind of a shuffle thing on it, and Lenny Castro's playing percussion.
But your vocals on there are brilliant. That's
I worked hard on it. Having a clear throat, without the smoking and the drinking, and I got a great new vocal coach and worked hard on those vocals because that sells the song.
Yeah. Well, the whole emphasis on the album is on your vocals and the back and the big sound that we've already talked about. Let's talk about the title track, which seems to be almost two songs in one.
Well, that harkens back to the old '70s prog rock stuff.
Kind of fusion beginning.
Well, it's not unlike. Remember how Yes and Genesis used to make these songs that were like have 3 or 4 parts, they have recurring themes and stuff like that, and it's got a little Pink Floyd thing in there that I love.
There it comes again.
So I love all that stuff. I'm a product of everything that I've always loved as a child and been influenced by.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my version of it. Yeah. And since I'm not trying to write hit singles because they're not going to play my music after Nicki Minaj on the BBC. I have the artistic freedom to do what I want. And maybe something will creep onto the radio or something. It's a little different,
This is the 7th album, as I said earlier on, and that's over since 1988, something like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, is the solo career a natural result of where you were musically at the time? You became more confident.
Sure. My first record was done in the '80s, at the end of the '80s, and I was desperately trying to be taken seriously as a rock and roll guy. And I got all my rock and roll friends on. It was my first record, so it was like having sex for the first time. Going to get it all in at one time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sort of overkill. Sure, you know what I mean? Sure. And now, as I've matured over the 25 years I've been doing solo records, and then there's the other side projects aside from the 7 real solo records. Yeah. I've learned a lot.
And a jam project.
And I've grown as a songwriter and as a musician. So I'm just trying to carry along on those. To not just write guitar vanity records. I go dig my chops just because there's other guys that do it so much better. Yeah. I just try to have a little bit of that. I kind of restrained the soloing a little bit, didn't get too crazy with it.
So all the emphasis comes back to songs. That's what
it does in the end.
Yeah. So what's the working relationship between you and CJ, apart from the fact he's the producer? I mean,
we wrote everything, almost everything. We did write everything together. Yeah. And we produced.
But he's that separate pair of ears.
He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, the atmospheric stuff that goes on in the background, it's not so much parts, it's sound, stuff. It's the sonic textures and everything. Yeah. If you listen to this record in headphones, you'll hear some really weird things that you wouldn't catch on the first pass. Yeah. And he's brilliant at that. He also was great at pushing me and stopping me when I went to some things. I go, that's shit. I'm not going to do that. I can't. He goes, get out of here. Live with this for a night. Trust me. Yeah. And that's even with the songwriting, lyrics, solos, vocal performance. You go, I got this. You sang the shit out of this. I got 5 tracks on you. Let me work with this. And he would be great because he's a detail guy. Right. I have these spurts. I go and work for like 5 or 6 hours and I'm done. That's it. That's all I got. But I don't even take a break. I mean, it's concentrated. Boom. Full on. Let's get into it. And then at the end of it, it's like, okay, man, I gotta go home and play with my kids, while they're still awake. And he's one of those guys that stays in there all night long because he's, doesn't have any kids and he's obsessed with working. So and I come back the next day and I go, that's awesome, man, great job,
that's a great
well done. So we give and we bring the most out of it, and then I would, because I speak the engineer speak, you know, I would catch things. So I'm gonna go, no, we got to do this. And try this EQ, try this. No, take that out. I don't like that. This layer, just like this. Pan this over here like this.
And he would do that.
And he would do that. And he'd go, wow, I would have never done that. That's great.
No, that's a good balance.
So we really kept each other honest, and we did sit there and write the words together and melodies. And he was great when we were doing lead vocals. He'd suggest some really cool phrasings that I wouldn't have thought of, and get the best out of me from vocally and from guitar wise and sonically. I think he's a great engineer. He's going, I don't know, I'm not that great of an engineer. But I think he was a great engineer. He mixed the record and stuff, you know.
It's a great record. Let me take you back to when you were a session guy, and I'm ask you the $64 million question, which is, how come you ended up being a session guy rather than wanting to lead your own rock and roll band?
I did both.
Yeah.
I mean, I always wanted to be a session guy. I thought that was the coolest job in the world.
Was that because you were hanging out with people like that and you were content?
I grew up with the Picard brothers. Jeff Picard was already in Steely Dan and doing sessions with David Page when we were still in high school.
Yeah.
And so that was like, wow, that's like the coolest thing you could have been in 1975. You know?
Yeah.
So I was able to get into that. I almost look back on it like, oh, did I really do that?
Well, you did, and you started off with Boz Scaggs. Was he a kind of influence?
Yeah, he gave me my first big break. Actually, through Jeff and all the Picard brothers, you know, were influential on me getting into that. You know? And that became Toto.
Another obvious question that people want me to ask is, did Thriller feel like a Michael Jackson's Thriller? Did that feel like a?
Is there other Thriller?
That's very good.
You know, I knew it was a special record when we were doing it because I had been working with Quincy since I was like 23 years old. Did the Dude record and all that.
And we have to say, you've just done this orchestral thing with Quincy, haven't you, as well?
Well, that was we did his like 60th anniversary in show business, and the Hollywood Bowl was a special guest.
Go ahead, so you tell me about
that. No, but we knew that was going to be special. I had no idea it was going to be the biggest record in history or something like that. I mean, it's really kind of cool to be part of something that historical.
We've got a few minutes left. I've got to plug the album, which is coming out on the 21st of January, Mascot Records, and more importantly, you're playing a couple of gigs in London.
I am. We're doing some fun little gigs, man. Please come out and see it. It's a great band.
I'm going to give it to him now. This is the London Islington O2 Academy on the 29th of March. And for all you people in Birmingham who've been coming to see Steve for years, you're going to be playing the Robin 2 on March 30th next night. Which will be a great gig. Most of the album, I suppose, you'll be playing.
Well, I'm going to do stuff from all the albums. I'll do a nice chunk of the
But you've always separated your solo career from Toto.
I'm not going to come out and sing Hold the Line, but I might dig something out very obscure. I've been known to do that before.
Well, it's a great album, ladies and gentlemen. Please check it out. It's been Pete Finch talking to Steve Lukather. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Eric, on the camera, and good afternoon.
Thank you, guys.